Hi, it's Jan Howell from YouMakeItSimple.com. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over my recommendations for sewing supplies and materials. So the essential things that you'll need, we'll go over those first. And that is, of course, your sewing machine. You don't need anything fancy. You'll also need some bobbins, extra bobbins for your sewing machine. You don't have to start out with a ton like I have here, just a few extras. And I encourage you to get just the basic colors of thread. And I recommend just a navy blue, a black, a tan, and a white thread. Of course, you're going to need a pair of fabric scissors and a pair of paper scissors. Important that you don't use your fabric scissors on paper because it will dull them quickly. My children know that they don't mess with my fabric scissors. They learned that over the years because it really does dull them quickly. You need straight pins, or what I have found in the last couple years, these sewing clips are the best. They are really nice to use and helpful. A few safety pins will come in handy for different things. You'll need some kind of measuring device. I like to get just a regular, simple measuring tape and a seam gauge. Hand sewing needles, there are times when you're going to need just to do a few things by hand. I recommend just getting a variety pack of hand sewing needles. Your machine will most likely come with extra sewing machine needles, but I recommend just using a universal needle, 70/10 or 80/12 or 90/14. You can download and print the sewing machine needle guide, and that's really helpful when we start sewing with knits and other fabrics. It's important to use the correct needle. But for general sewing, just regular fabric, woven fabrics, I recommend just having a universal needle. And sometimes you can even get away with sewing some knits with a universal needle. A rotary cutter and a mat and ruler come in handy for cutting a lot of straight things. Some people really like to use these for cutting out everything. Just have some scraps of fabric on hand and set them by your machine. So if you ever need to test out a stitch before you use the stitch on your project, it's nice to have a piece of fabric that you can just sew on and see how the stitch looks, and then you can just throw those away. This little guide, the seam ripper, will become your friend, and don't be afraid of using it. Just accept it right now. There are going to be times when you have to unpick things. You sew something, it doesn't turn out, or it's not straight or something, and I'm going to show you some tricks on how to make that easier. And most of these things are really inexpensive to pick up and buy. It's good to have some marking device. This is a 2-tip, water-soluble, and a disappearing ink pen. And I use this chalk pen a lot. It comes with different colors, but if I'm using a dark color fabric, this white comes in handy, and it also has some other color. Some kind of turning stick or device. This is made for turning. It has a blunt end. It's like a bamboo skewer. You can use a bamboo skewer or a broken off pencil so the lead doesn't poke through. And need some kind of device to turn things inside out. I like having masking tape on hand. I use this a ton for different projects. Get some masking tape and have that available. Have an iron and an ironing board on hand. I really like my portable mini ironing board, and I have a pattern and a tutorial on how to make these covers. And because the steam sometimes of your iron, they will get stained and yucky looking after a while, and they are really easy to make up a new one. So I have several of these on hand when they get, and you can just wash them. And this is a nice thing you can just put on your cabinet or whatever and have that instead of getting your big ironing board out if it's a small project. Fray check is another not necessary item, but comes in handy for when you have a seam that is a fabric that's fraying a lot and you don't want it to fray. This keeps it in place and is nice to have on hand. So I know that seems like a lot of items to pick up, but like I say, get the basics first and start acquiring and getting those other things that you see needed. You can get the link to the printable sewing needle guide in the link in the description below. And if you're new to sewing and would like to watch the complete sewing course, my Sew Simple course, make sure you click on the link below to get more information about that. It's a great course covering all the basics for sewing, and it includes some really fun sewing projects and the patterns. So don't forget to check that out. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel for upcoming courses and tutorials. We'll see you next time.